Hello viewers, welcome to Diagnostics, Dio here. Today we have a 2006 GMC Sierra with a 6.6 liter. The customer complaint on this truck is the check engine light remains on while the engine is running. The customer also stated that this truck is losing power tremendously. It feels like this truck is in a limp mode. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go inside the truck and confirm the complaint. After confirming the complaint, we're gonna connect a scan tool to the truck to see what kind of trouble codes we have in the engine computer. So now let's go in the truck and confirm the complaint. As you can hear, the engine runs and the check engine light remained on. So right there, customer's complaint confirmed. And also the brake light is on and the ABS light is on as well. So we have confirmed the customer's complaint. So now let's test drive the truck and see if it's losing power. So I'm gonna put it in reverse. Let's back out of the shop. So there's one thing I noticed, guys. Let me put it back in park. Over here, on these letters over here that show you which gear you're in, there is usually a light down here that shows you what gear you're in. So if you're in park, it's gonna show you you're in park. But that light is not lit up. So watch this. I'm gonna put my gear selector in reverse. So we are in reverse, but the light over here is not lit up. So that's something I wanted to mention. So let's test drive this and see how it drives. And then when we get back, we're gonna scan it for some trouble codes. Because I was told that this truck is losing power tremendously. Let's just drive around the shop. We don't have to go far. We're driving and this transmission doesn't upshift. It feels like it's stuck in second gear, and also the speedometer doesn't work. The speedometer has stopped working. So let's keep driving. So the speedometer is inoperative on the dash and the vehicle doesn't upshift. So let's drive back to the shop and see what we got. So let's drive back to the shop and scan it. Alright guys, we are back here at the shop. I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna turn the key on. I'm gonna get the scan tool connected to the vehicle so we can scan the engine computer. After I get the scan tool connected, I'll bring you guys back up. Alright, so I got the scan tool connected to the vehicle. So let's scan this. Let's go to scanner. So right there, the scan tool has identified the vehicle, 2006 GMC Sierra with a 6.6 liter. So let's click OK. Now let's do a code scan. The scan tool is done scanning all the control units on the vehicle. We have one trouble code in the engine computer. The code we have in the ECM is U0101 and it says lost communication with TCM. And we have one trouble code in the ABS control unit. The code is C0055 rear wheel speed sensor circuit fault. So this is what's causing the ABS light to remain on while the engine is running. Now, if you look closely here, you will notice that the transmission is not listed, okay? So this is what's causing this code to be set in the engine computer. So the engine computer is not communicating with the transmission computer. So the TCM is not talking to the engine computer. And this is what's causing the check engine light to remain on while the engine is running. So let's scroll down and see what other trouble codes we have. We have one code in the BCM. We have the same code in the glow plug control module, the U0101, lost communication with TCM. And we have the same code on the generic side of the tool, U0101, lost communication with TCM. So these lost communication trouble codes are usually caused by a couple of things. Either an open in the communication wires between the TCM and the other control units, so the network, or a defective control unit, or power missing to the control unit, or ground missing to the control unit. So in this case, the control unit we are talking about is the transmission control unit. Okay, so now let's go into the engine computer. This is an automatic transmission. I want to clear this trouble code and see if it's gonna come right up. Okay, so let's clear this code and see it's gonna come back right away. So let's clear the code. Let's go to codes again. So no trouble codes. I'm gonna start the truck. So as soon as I start the truck, the trouble code comes back. Okay? So we are not communicating with the transmission control unit. So let me turn off the truck. Let's back out. Actually, let's go to the transmission control unit over here. So all these control units are listed here. So I'm gonna go straight to the transmission control unit. So let's click on transmission. Let's go to codes menu, display codes. So right there, no communication, check the following. So the ignition key is on. Okay. Check connection between scanner and vehicle. The scan tool is connected to the vehicle. So we cannot communicate with the transmission control unit. This is why this transmission is not upshifting. And this is also why the speedometer is not working. Okay. And this is why it's in limp mode. So when we have a no-com problem, the typical thing to do is check powers and grounds at the control unit. Okay. That's how I like to tackle these no communication trouble codes. So let's back out of here. Let's go back to the engine computer. As you can see, our trouble code is there. Okay. Let's go to our transmission control unit and let's check our powers and grounds. Let's make sure that this transmission control unit is being powered. If the transmission control unit is being powered, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check our communication wires. If there is a message getting to the transmission control unit, then that will tell us that our communication lines are good. At that point, the problem will be a defective transmission control unit. Now let's go under the hood and figure out where this transmission control unit is. Actually, before we do that, before we get to the transmission control unit, I want to back out. Let's go to our guided component test. So this is a 6.6 liter. Let me double check and find out which VIN this one is. So this is a D VIN number. Let's go to transmission. This one has an Allison transmission. So TCM, power test. Here is our transmission control unit electrical connector. So if we go down these wires over here, I can already see a ground wire. So wire number 9. So pin 9 is a ground wire. and it's a black wire with a white tracer. So we're gonna go down this list and figure out which ones are our power wires and which ones are our ground wires. And then we're gonna use a test light to test our power wires and our ground wires at the TCM. So now let's go under the hood and check our powers and grounds. We are here under the hood. Hopefully this connector view that we have here is the right one. And this is the transmission control unit. And these transmission control units fail pretty commonly. So this control unit has a couple plastic tabs that are holding it against the radiator shroud. We're gonna remove these plastic tabs so we can pull it up and get to the electrical connector. So now let's do that. So let's remove these plastic tabs over here. So here comes our transmission control unit. So this is the electrical connector of the TCM. We're gonna remove this cover so we can get access to the wires of the TCM. So I'm going to remove this little plastic lock first. So this cover has a couple locks on each side that I have to undo. So I'm just gonna pry these up. So we're gonna undo these locks over here to remove this cover. Alright, so here comes the cover. We got the cover removed. So now we have access to the wires. So let's look at the connector first. The connector looks nice and clean. There are no corroded wires. So now there are numbers on these wires. So this over here is pin 1. So pin 1 is open. And then pin 2 is a purple wire. Now let me double check on my connector layout. So let's bring this over here. It says 1 not used, and then second is purple. That's the torque converter clutch brake switch / cruise control release signal. Yeah, so that's it. This is over here. This is pin 1. And pin 1 is open, so we have the correct connector layout. So I'm gonna put this over here. Now I'm gonna bring up our test light so we can check our powers and grounds at this connector. We're gonna use this test light to check our powers and grounds. We're also gonna use this jumper wire to go between power and ground on the battery. Okay, so I'm gonna use this brake clean to clean the back of the connector so I can see these numbers on the connector easily. Now, you can go a couple ways about doing this. I mean, the electrical connector of the TCM was really easy to get to. The entire transmission control unit was easy to get to. But one thing you could do before you check your powers and grounds at the control unit you're testing can be checking the fuses that supply power to the control unit. Okay, we could have checked the fuses first, but since this control unit is really easy to get to, it's just easier to start here, to go here and check our powers and grounds. Because at this point, if we have one wire that's missing power, then we're gonna trace it back to wherever the power source is, okay? And that's gonna be the same thing for a ground wire or a power wire, because the other thing that can cause a no com on a control unit can be an open power wire or an open ground wire. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to back probe our ground wire first. So we're gonna start by checking our ground wires. So the first ground wire is gonna be pin 9, and it's a black wire. So this over here is pin 1. So pin 1 is not used. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is pin 9, and it's black. So I just back probed it. Now we're gonna connect our test light to it. Okay. Now I'm gonna use this jumper wire, and I'm gonna connect this wire to battery positive. And this side is gonna go to our test light. Now, let's test our test light first. I'm gonna touch this side to battery ground. So as you can see, when I touch ground, my test light lights. So that's good. So now let's do our test once again. Let's make sure we're making good connection. So right there, our test light lights. So our first ground wire is good. The other thing we can check on the other side is pin fitment. We have to make sure that our pin is not loose over here. So our pin is really tight. We don't have a pin fitment issue. So that's good. So now let's find our second ground wire, if there's a second one. So I'm gonna go down this list and figure out which one is the second ground wire. So the second ground wire is pin 69. So pin 69. So we got 61, 62, 63, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. So this is 69 over here. Let's back probe this. If there's ground here, my test light is gonna light. So right there, as you can see, the test light is lit. So we have ground over here. Okay, so this is what I just checked, guys. I just checked this pin over here, pin 69. As you can see, it says ground, and it's a black wire with a white tracer. Pin 69, that's what I just checked. Okay, so now let's go down the list and see if there's another ground wire. Okay, so that's the only one. So this control unit, this transmission control unit, only has 2 ground wires. So let me go back and double check. Let me make sure I didn't miss any wire. So pin 9 is the first ground wire, and then the other one is pin 69. So 9 and 69 are our ground wires. So now let's check our power supply wires. Now I'm gonna switch my test light to battery ground. Okay, so I got my test light connected to battery ground. If I touch positive, my test light is gonna light. So we have a positive pin here. So I touch power here, and my test light lights. So that's good. So now we're gonna find our first power supply wire. So the first one is pin 10. Let me show you here. Sorry for the glare, guys. So we checked all our ground wires. Our ground wires are good. So now we're gonna check pin 10. As you can see, it says battery positive. So now we're gonna check pin 10. So my test light is connected to battery ground. If I touch power, my test light is gonna light. And this is a orange wire, so it's right here. As you can see, my test light is lit, so we have power there. Let's double check the back of it. Okay, we don't have a pin fitment issue, so that's good. So that's the first power wire. So now let's check the second power wire. So pin 61 says it's ignition voltage. So I'm gonna go in the vehicle and turn the key on. So I got the key turned on in the vehicle. Pin 61. No, actually it's pin 63. Pin 63 is, so 1, 2, 3. 63 is a pink wire. So right here, test light lights. Okay. Let me show you again. So we are testing this wire, pin 63 right here. 63, it says ignition 1 voltage, and it's a pink wire. Okay, so we got power there, so that's good. We have power. We don't have a pin fitment issue, so that's good. We got 2 power wires tested. Now we have pin 70. Pin 70 is battery positive. So pin 70, 63. So pin 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is pin 70. As you can see, our test light lights. So now I'm testing pin 70. So this pin over here. As you can see, pin 70, it says power positive voltage. Okay. So we got pin 70 tested. So right here, our test light lights. We don't have a pin fitment issue. So let's keep scrolling down. All right, so that's all. This transmission control unit is receiving power and ground. This transmission control unit has 2 ground wires and 3 power supply wires. Okay, it should be communicating. Now, the last thing we're gonna test is gonna be our communication wires. So our communication wires are pin 66. Let me find pin 66. So now we can get this test light out of the picture. So we already checked our powers and grounds. So now I'm gonna find pin 66. Pin 66 is the high speed CAN bus wire. So we got 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, and 66. So I'm gonna back probe pin 66. And pin 66 is a dark blue wire. So this one. So I got that back probed. Now let's find the other CAN bus wire. So the other CAN bus wire is pin 47. Actually, I need to clarify something. As I'm looking down this connector here, as I'm looking down these pins, we have 2 networks on this connector. Okay, there is this GM lane serial data bus, which this one over here, 47, which we're gonna test first. So this is the negative side, and then the positive side is 66, which I just back probed, and it says high speed GM lane serial data bus positive. So we're gonna check this GM lane serial data bus first. After we check these 2, then we're gonna check this high speed. Then we're gonna check the high speed GM lane serial data bus. Okay, so hold on, are they both high speed? So high speed GM lane serial data bus, and then this one also says high speed GM lane serial data bus. So basically what I'm trying to say is we have 4 wires that are communication wires on this electrical connector of the TCM. So let's check these 2 first. Okay, so we're gonna check 47 first, 47 and 66 first. Okay, we're gonna use a lab scope for that. I'm gonna grab my lab scope test leads. We're gonna back probe pin 66 and pin 47. With the key on, we should see a message, a communication message here at the TCM electrical connector. So I back probed pin 66 and pin 47 at the TCM electrical connector. And pin 66 over here says that it's one of the communication legs. So right over here, 66, high speed GM lane serial data bus positive. So I back probed this one and 47, this guy over here. High speed GM lane serial data bus negative, and it's a light blue wire. Okay, so now let's back out of here. Let's go to our scope. Now I'm doing this test to make sure that there is no open in the communication networks between the TCM and the other control units. So let's turn on these traces. So right here, as you can see, they're both mirroring each other, the yellow trace and the green trace. Let's put some numbers here. So on average, we have 1.97 volts on the yellow trace and 3.03 volts on the green trace. Now this voltage is coming from the network, from the other control units talking in the network. Okay, now the fact that we have this voltage here on the scope at the connector, because if I disconnect this back probe, we're gonna lose the voltage on the scope. Actually, let me disconnect the one that's easy to get to. I'm gonna show you. Okay, so this blue wire over here, okay, watch that. I'm gonna disconnect this and we're gonna lose the voltage on the scope. Watch this. You see that? So we lost voltage. Okay, if I reconnect it, okay, so this voltage is coming from the other control units. So this tells me that from this connector all the way back to the other control units, the circuit is good. So our network is good. Okay, now this is starting to look like we have a bad TCM. Okay, so this network is good. The first network is good. So now let's go to the second one. So we tested pin 66 and pin 47, right? So we got 47 and 66 and this one. So there's another one here that we need to test, and they're next to each other, which is good. So pin 26 and pin 27, high speed GM lane serial data bus positive and high speed GM lane serial data bus negative. Okay, I mean they're both called GM lane serial data bus. So let's figure out on the connector here which one is pin 26 and which one is pin 27. So it's 26 and 27. So if you look at the connector here, we have 21. So 21, 2, 3, 4. So we're moving over from 21 down this way. So we got 21 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 26 and 27. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on, this doesn't make sense. Wait a minute, because this is not adding up, because 21 over here says not used and 22 says unmanaged torque signal, 23 is power takeoff, 25 and 24 are not used, and then 26 is the one we're supposed to check. Now when I'm counting here from 21 over here, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 there's nothing, and then 27 is 10. I mean, it says over here 27, it's a 10 wire, and this one is definitely a 10 wire. Okay, actually let me back probe this wire. So this is a 10 wire, so we got 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So let's go to our lab scope again. All right, so you see that? I feel good with the test we did, okay? And I know these TCMs fail very commonly, okay? So I feel good calling a transmission control unit on this one, okay? So we did the test, we checked power, we checked ground, we have communication at this TCM electrical connector. So this truck needs a transmission control unit. So I'm gonna have to get a new transmission control unit for this truck. And this transmission control unit has to be programmed. I don't have the right equipment to program this control unit. I'm gonna have to have my friend come out here that has some programming equipment so he can come and program it for me. We have done what needed to be done. So this needs a new transmission control unit, and after we replace the transmission control unit, this will be fixed. Now, you might wonder what caused this transmission control unit to go bad. I can actually do a resistance measurement of the solenoids, the shift solenoids in the transmission, because if we have a shorted shift solenoid, that can cause a transmission control unit to go bad. So just to be safe, I will do a resistance measurement of the shift solenoids in the transmission. I'm gonna do that here at the connector, but I'm not gonna show you that. That's an extra test you can do just to be 1000% sure. But I also know that these transmission control units fail very often because they live here in the engine bay. You know, the heat that's generated by the engine is what usually causes these transmission control units to go bad, okay? So I'm gonna leave this video right over here. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.